know what a G-Wagon is, right? Well, if you don't, I'll give you a bit of history. 1972, Mercedes develops a military vehicle to sell to the German forces. It's called the Geländewagen, hence G-Wagon. In 1979, it starts selling it to the public so they can buy a brutish piece of military kit which is tougher than a Jeep and tougher than a Land Rover. That car has carried on being sold since that point, and the outline structure of the car, the way it looks, has barely changed at all. Those cars had around 120 horsepower with the petrol version, the diesels had less than that. The car I'm driving at the moment has 544 horsepower. It's called the new G63 AMG, and it is completely batshit. In fact, it's hard to think of the G63 as anything other than a collection of numbers. It has the new bi-turbo V8 that you see in the E63, the CLS63, and recently the SL63. The engine's rated at 544 horsepower, it has 560 foot-pounds of torque, it weighs 2,550 kilograms. It has a claimed 0 to 62 time of 5.4 seconds, and it's limited to 131 miles an hour flat out. It is quite possibly the most pointless car on sale today, but who needs cars with a point? Now, the G-Wagon is not an ML rival or anything like that. This is a proper ladder chassis with a body on it and a load of power. Quite how Mercedes manages to make these things even go round corners, I do not know. They're not civilised though, and they don't go around that quickly. So here we are in the Swabian Alps with a bit of space. What's it like to drive an off-roader with a separate body and chassis that's got 544 horsepower? It's quite a lot of fun, actually. Jesus Christ. I've got a 7-speed automatic gearbox, not the sort of wet clutch thing you get in the E63. It absolutely fires out of hairpins. It has the most intrusive ESP system in the world. The steering has no feel whatsoever, and the 275 section Yokohamas feel like they're about a 125/90 when you turn into a corner. This is not about driving for enjoyment's sake, this is about an experience. But if you want to just squirt from 0 to 120 miles an hour and have everyone else just drop their jaw at you, I'm not sure there's a better car on the road, is there? Yeah, this car has an absolutely unique ability to transmit every single ripple and bump all the way through those plump tyres, the springs, the dampers, the floor, the seat, right to your bottom. But anyone who approaches the G63 AMG in an objective fashion is a complete berg. We've driven it on some lovely windy roads in the Swabian Hills, long enough to confirm that it's not much use at going around corners, that it's very fast between corners, that now and again you wonder if it's going to be able to stop. It always does stop, I'll give it that. And that it's actually not much fun to drive on twisty roads. But we knew that already. If you had a G63 AMG for half a day and you were in southern Germany, what would you do with it? You'd do the same as me. You'd go onto the Autobahn and try and bait things between 40 and 130 miles an hour. So let's go and find us some Porsches to irritate. I suppose before we do go fast, we should assess the aerodynamic capabilities of the G-Wagon. Let's have a think. First of all, panel gaps. Well, they're not so much panel gaps as sort of crevasses, aren't they? Or great big crevices, you might call them. They're enormous. You can poke your whole hand into some of them. So at speed, with its upright windscreen, great big sort of bluff square nose and those great big gaps, this must be one of the least aerodynamic cars on sale. It's got this lovely surging torque where you just brush the throttle and the car just strokes along a bit faster. It feels quite relaxed. Steering is the issue for me. Forget the aerodynamics, it's got obviously quite a big old steering system in it, and I mean even at 90 you can do that to it and it doesn't even change direction, so the subtleties of getting it trimmed a bit through a faster corner on the Autobahn would mean that you'd need quite big spuds to drive this thing really fast, I think. So we're pulling out onto the A. I'm not going to tell you because I don't know and because it's not going to help. The aim of this is to latch onto a few fast moving cars and see whether something with the aerodynamics of a small town can actually, live with fast Autobahn traffic. We're now doing 90 miles an hour already. Quite busy today. Hopefully that's going to help us, because that means we can squirt between 80 and 120 miles an hour as quick as everything else. To me, this doesn't feel far off, a really fast saloon or estate car. So sort of Audi S4 style speed. Not bad when you weigh 2.55 tons. I suppose what's going to be more difficult is the sort of sudden braking, because people do drive quite closely on the Autobahn. You've got to cover the brake a bit. Anyhow, surely, in terms of getting stuff out of the way, this is going to be a bit handy. What's that? That's 115, 120 straight away. I mean, it just gets up there so quickly. We keep going. 190, 200. Just straight into that limiter there. 130 miles an hour, bang! It just sits there. Amazing stuff. I mean, of course you get a right old load of wind noise. They've made the wing mirrors a bit smaller on this new version, and you do notice less wind noise. Probably ups the speed from about 129 to 130 as well. Anyhow, that's the end of the D restrict here for a minute. So yeah, we cruised along at 130 quite happily. It's a mighty bit of kit. So here's the point of conjecture. How fast would it go if you took the limiter off it? Well, the G65 is limited to 230, so let's say about 140 miles an hour, a little bit over, 140, 142. So what would this thing do? Feels to me like it would do an honest 160 miles an hour, maybe more. That's just silly. And I think the limiting factor is the tyre. So someone at Yokohama, can you please make a tyre that will allow the G-Wagon to show us what it's capable of doing? I still don't quite know what to make of this car, because you can't take it seriously. It's just preposterous. Preposterous.